I couldn't climb Nandi, couldn't even go up. Like, I had no motivation, no fitness to go up. So I didn't even touch the top. And on the way back, these guys pushed me back. So that day, like, I was wearing glasses. Great, I was wearing glasses because I was crying all the way coming back, thinking, what the fuck happened? Like, something is off. This is like, what have I become? For me, it was like if I can ride with them and hold, it's good. Like Saturday rides, I was reaching till the top, like it's with everyone. So that's when I thought, okay, so I haven't gotten really serious about it yet. Let's see what happens if I do. Because I've had like very frustrating moments with LBB riders not, like one person's in the break and then, right? Like what other people feel now is what I was feeling then.
Yeah.
That these guys, man, like they come in big numbers and then like everybody's good and fit and then how do you beat them?
I am Venky and this is the Working Athlete Podcast. Here, I talk to working athletes from all walks of life and experts from various sports to provide you with inspiration, training tips, time management, and lifestyle advice. If this is something that interests you, please make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future episodes. Today's guest, Shaurya Kaushal, is a PhD candidate and is one of the strongest cyclists in Bangalore. He is part of LBB Racing, which is one of the strongest cycling teams in India currently. He is behind initiatives like the Monthly Cours, a club racing series in Bangalore, and an YouTube channel named FTP from the Peloton, where he, along with a friend, Joel, analyzes club races in India. I really love the work they are doing on the channel. I think content like that helps in educating and improving the awareness of cycling and racing community. You should check it out and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. In this episode, we talk about his journey in cycling. We talk about his training methods over the years that helped him become the cyclist he is now. We also talk about the community races, his racing style, racing strategies that worked for him and did not work for him, among others. It was a really enjoyable conversation. With that, let us get into my conversation with Shaurya. Right, Shaurya, welcome to
Venky.
the Working Athlete Podcast.
Thanks for having me again. Or before, I don't know. But
Yeah. Shaurya, I wanted to use this opportunity to get to know a bit more about you because I've seen you, racing from I don't know when, but the first time that I remember that I really noticed you was in Nandi. Namma Nandi race or
Nandi Habba.
Nandi Habba.
Yeah, first year.
First year.
Yeah.
Was it? Which year was
Namma Nandi's first 2018.
2018. Was it?
2018, yeah. Early 2018.
Okay.
Because I had just gotten back to cycling.
Mm-hmm. So that was the first time I've noticed you, and the immediate thought for me when I saw you in that race was like, what is this guy doing? He's so racing so strong. I have never seen him. So that impression has carried forward, and I still see I have the same feeling. Whenever I see you race, even now.
Such
It's
kind
like,
words.
It's like, what is this guy made of? So I want to know more about you and understand where all this is coming from, right?
Sure.
So let us start by talking about your childhood and your relationship with sport as a kid and growing up.
Right. Yeah, so growing up was, as an Indian kid, your relationship with sports is highly dependent on how you do in class. So I was good in class, and hence my relationship with sport was very like every 2 years I'd get into sport and then I'd go out of sport. Now, why every 2 years is So my father's in the army, and every 2 years we get posted in a peace posting where we'd live with him. Now, in that kind of an atmosphere, you can go play a bunch of sports and you find people to play also. And the other 2 years, when I was living, like our family was staying away, this is in Shimla, then I was just studying. Then other than altitude training just by walking back and forth to school, I wasn't doing anything. Uh, but my real, like, first, if you specifically count sport, my real relationship with sports started only in college. That's where I was stationed in one place for 4 years, and that's where I really got into sport. Before that, it was just an on and off thing. I had like dwelled into a lot of things, but it was very on and off, and it was never the core of my being, uh, which it is now. But back then, it was just, studied, now you're getting a headache, just go play badminton, come back, refresh yourself, study again. That was pretty much my life as a in childhood.
Okay. So badminton was something that
Yeah,
you
I
did
played.
more?
I know. Yeah, I played almost all racket other than TT. I played tennis. I played squash, hockey. Hockey has a follow-up thing going on later into my life. Badminton, learned swimming. Never used to do any running. Basketball, because like pahadis are all short, so my parents made it a point to, you have to play basketball, otherwise you won't get taller. Well, yeah.
Did it help?
Well, I'm the tallest in my family now, so extended family also.
Oh, so it helped.
I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, whatever, right? So I
Yeah.
played a bunch of sports basically.
Hmm.
I was the goalkeeper in football, because you know how, like,
Yeah.
if you're a little heavy, then you're always the goalkeeper in football, especially in school. So that is how my early sports journey was, which
Right.
was really like,
Hmm.
I used to see my peers and they were excellent in sport. Like, I would say, like, phenomenal runners, phenomenal like footballers. I was just there to like recharge myself. That's pretty much it.
Nice. But when did like cycling come into the picture and how?
Well, as a kid, everybody cycles. So if
Mm.
that's the question, then yeah, as a kid.
Right.
But competitively, I would say when I moved to Bangalore is when
Mhm.
cycling, I really got to know cycling is a sport that exists in India.
Mm.
Before that, I had no clue.
When did you move into to Bangalore?
2016.
2016.
2016 is when I started my PhD,
Mhm.
and that's what I moved to Bangalore for.
Right.
And I bought a bicycle, a Roam 3, and giant Roam 3 hybrid.
Mm.
And I had an option of buying a motorbike or a bicycle. So I decided to buy a bicycle to commute basically. That's
Mm.
pretty much it.
So how long was this commute?
So it's mostly commuting to work was like 2 kilometers, and every weekend I'd go to Indranagar to meet my friends. So that's like 20-25 kilometers back and back, one way and back. That's pretty
Okay.
much it.
Mm. So you got into a PhD program.
Right.
PhD in what?
So I am doing my PhD in computational fluid mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's a like subject of mechanical and chemical engineering, because my bachelor's was in mechanical engineering.
Mm.
So it's mostly to do with aerodynamics, and not just aero but also other fluids. So,
Aerodynamics.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, sounds something relevant to
Well,
our
cycling,
sport,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Excellent. So you got that hybrid bike
Right.
and started commuting,
Right.
basically using it to get around the
Right.
new
The
city
Yeah,
that you are in, right?
correct.
So, but how did that grow into actually the sport?
That's so one event that happened. So once everybody who owns a bicycle in Bangalore has a dream of cycling to Nandi, right? So one of these weekends I decided to. I start at 4 o'clock in the morning. Easy. Reach Nandi. When I reached I'm on the last hairpin or something of Nandi, and I stopped some couple of times, but I'm not interested. I don't know that climbing Nandi in one go is a thing.
Hmm.
I have no like experience like that. And there's another friend of mine, Astosh, who is a good runner, and
Ashutosh Sabnis.
Astosh Belur.
Belur. Yeah.
He's a tall 6'5" guy. You can't
Oh,
miss him.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, I remember that.
Yeah,
Guy.
so he
Yeah.
was into breves a lot, right?
Mm.
So we both went together, and he obviously went up. And this is in November. So guess what's happening on that same day, on that weekend?
Oh, Nandi race.
Nandi race, right? And then suddenly I see these people zoop past me, and then there's a lot of cheering and cyclists going up, and I'm like, what is happening?
This is 2016 itself?
This is 2016 November, yeah.
Ah.
So that's the day that I decided next year I want to take part in a race that happens. And that is pretty much, I go back and buy a road bike and I give off my hybrid to another friend of mine, and it's still there. It's like just getting passed from one friend to another. And yeah, that's the journey.
So
After that,
BBCH actually, had that impact on you.
That
to get into
coupled
the
with
race.
me deciding to go on that day. And that's the last race of the season.
Right.
So now I know I have 3 months before a bar ITT happens
Hmm.
in 2017, and I'm going to go race that. So
Right.
that is pretty much how it started.
Awesome. So did you race in that bar?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Oh,
I
nice.
did 33 kilometers per hour average for 24 kilometers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my beginning.
You know
I
what?
didn't hear right.
That is exactly the speed
Hmm.
of my first race
Right,
at BBCH
right,
in August 2011,
right.
and the distance was also 22 or 24, something
Okay.
like that. You know this Budigere village, right?
Yeah.
The Shivas Road and Budigere. And that road used to be like a single lane,
Hmm.
and it used to be, we used to use that predominantly to go to Nandi.
Hmm.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And from Budigere to the end of that road, there is like 11 kilometers or something.
Okay.
And coming back, so 22 kilometers.
Uh-huh.
There in August 2011, they organized a TTT.
Oh wow.
Okay, I
Right.
went there to watch the race.
Right.
Okay, because that used to be my regular training
Mhm,
ground.
mhm.
And there they said you can, those who are there and they don't have teams,
Hmm.
obviously, can
Can do
race
ITT.
ITT.
Okay.
Okay, they were flexible like that.
Right. What
Yeah.
bike were you riding then?
I was riding my Bulldog, my fixed gear
Oh,
bike.
Wow.
Okay.
Nice.
I never thought, I was like, at that point of time, my thinking is like racing, it's not
Mhm.
for me,
Hmm.
I'm just riding for fun,
Right.
right? So when I went there to watching the race, it was like all these fancy bikes,
Yeah.
super aero
Spandex.
kits and spandex. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And when they said you can race, I kind of got excited, and
Right.
I think Deepak or someone,
Uh-huh.
said you can race and whatever. So I took to the start line
Right.
just for fun.
Right.
Did the race, I think 33 kmph or something like that, and I went home
Nice.
after this.
Uh-huh.
So after coming home, they say, okay, they call and say, oh, you got a medal. That
Oh, you weren't there.
So
Nice.
I actually won the part where ITT had.
Yeah.
So because everyone who are
Mm-hmm.
into it, racing
Mhm.
are obviously part of the TTT, right?
TTT, right.
So
Oh wow.
I was,
What lucky.
and
Yeah.
I was hooked obviously
Yeah,
from there.
exactly.
So BBCH has a kind of influence
Hmm.
on a lot of us.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
is that is the
Especially-
point I was
yeah.
trying to make
Definitely.
by sharing that story.
Yeah.
Right. So you got into that from commute to moving,
Yeah.
taking sports
Just
to
by one event which I
Uh.
saw, and so there is a story to this, because when I during my bachelor's, I was part of a really intense sporting culture where there's morning evening training, right? And this I've done for 4 years. Now I come to Bangalore, and then I'm like, okay, what to do now? Because you don't have a team. Where do you play now? So that's when I was lacking something in life where I had something to look forward to so that I can get up. Like I'm a early morning waker, but I need a thing to work towards.
Yeah.
And I was probably just looking for it, and this gave me a reason, and that's pretty much when I got hooked onto it, and then
Super.
yeah.
So you got hooked onto it in your first race was bar race?
Yeah, my first race was a bar ITT.
Bar ITT. How so you did 33 kmph.
Yeah, I was just nothing, no heart rate, nothing. Just went with it. Just kept looking at speed. Yeah, and I was a little big then, so like I was a little built. So yeah, I am still struggling losing all that weight.
I don't remember.
Yeah, no, these are like things only I will notice. Built in the sense that like my shoulders were wider, my arms were bigger. Yeah, because gym.
Yeah. Nice. So from there, how did the riding go? Like
Right.
in 2017 onwards?
Right. So 17, I rode a lot. I think my idea was like how I started was I just listened to people who I thought knew more about cycling than me, and whatever they told me, I'll just follow it. So I didn't have a coach, no nothing. Uh, this is when one day riding on the road, I meet my future brother-in-law, Shreyas. He rides for this group called Veloscope. So he met me on the road, and we started doing more rides together. And Shreyas Lokur.
Shreyas Lokur.
And he told me, hey, why don't you guys, this is me, Ashutosh, and another friend, Chakradhar. Why don't you join Veloscope? I was like, sure, yeah, why not? Somebody is including me for, I don't even like train properly. And these guys back then had Siddharth Kansal and Siddharth Krishnan, both of them, and Ashok, all three of them really strong riders. So for me to be in a group where I'm not the strongest is the best opportunity to learn. So I was like, sure, yeah, let's join it. And then we started doing group rides. Through them, Brijesh was there for supporting and teaching. So through them, I learned a lot about like cycling and what the situation is.
So you know what? So it's funny. I told someone called right to hand me over the medal.
Right.
It was Brijesh.
Oh, Brijesh only.
And my first racing team was Veloscope.
Veloscope, yeah.
So
yeah, that's I think I met Srini the other day. He was at the store, and so they're talking about old days of cycling, and obviously like I'm not there.
Yeah, Srini and I used to ride. We were part of the team around that time.
Right.
We did Srini, myself, and Balu. I don't know if you know him.
He's on the group.
Right. So we used to go to Nandi.
Right.
I mean, we did a few rides together.
Right.
And that we have a connection there. The Veloscope. Yeah.
So yeah, 2017 I rode with them. Got a jersey from them and rode for them. Took part in as many races I could, obviously in the amateur category. But the idea was to race as much as you can and move to elite as fast as you can. Just get to a fitness where you can survive in the elite peloton, because everybody in Veloscope told me don't stay in amateur for too long. It's just not worth like risking. Just get fitter and move on. It's not too hard. But then in 2018, after that Nandi Habba race and everything got over, I had a medical condition which like pulled me down quite a little, to the point that I sold my bike. I'd just gotten carbon wheels. I sold them off. I sold my shoes off, and I just like removed cycling for 7-8 months from my life.
What happened?
So I got an infection in my throat, which I thought would go away with time. So it was an infection which affected my the left larynx. So there's a nerve that every time you want to speak, your brain tells the larynx to, hey, start vibrating so that the air goes and it makes sound. So the left larynx had an infection which affected the nerve there, and it was paralyzed. So, but another job of the larynx is to help you breathe, right? You want to breathe deeper, the voice box has to open a little. So the left part did stop moving, and I was on because there's an inflammation, so there's a shitload of medication you're on. Uh, so I couldn't cycle for that 1 month, and then this became a thing because they were hoping that the inflammation would go away from the steroids, and then it'll like you will be fine. But it never went away. So then I went and met the doctor, and all of this was like financially little, like because it's my stupidity went to like some expensive Aster hospital thinking that this is the best. I mean, back then I didn't know any better, right? So yeah, so that didn't get better, and so the doctor suggested either we go for a surgery or you'll have to do therapy, like voice therapy, for quite some time, and stop intensive sport because you won't be able to breathe heavily. So that's when I like gave all of this up. I thought cycling is done. For 6 to 8, how I sound right now is not how I used to sound before. So for 6 to 8 months, I couldn't. So another part of the treatment is you don't stress your voice. So I couldn't shout. Forget shouting. I wasn't allowed to talk. So for 6 to 8 months, I didn't hear myself talk.
Wow.
And then so your brain's gone into this zone where you don't know how you sound anymore. So then like building back different sounds, you got to make the O's, the R's correctly, just so that you're yeah. So now like after 2018 end is when it got back through. I didn't choose the surgery route, and went through therapy, and then got to like 70-80% of the movement back. I still can't shout, like loud noises, sounds I can't do. Yeah, I used to sing before, now I can't sing also.
Wow.
So because you can't hit certain pitches. So that was quite that's where I lost a lot of fitness. That's where I lost a lot of like time trying to build up to anything. But yeah, I got back after it got recovered.
Wow, that's quite a
Well,
thing,
yeah,
man.
right, yeah. It was, I think, probably the first time I experienced something major in life. Because before that, it'll be your parents and there, somebody
Yeah.
will take care of you. But this had to be done on your own.
No, these kind of things are not just physical, right?
Yeah.
They are, I mean, basically, if you are not able to speak or
Yeah.
not able to do anything
Yeah.
that you love, there it's going to definitely have an effect on
For sure.
your mental
Yeah.
health as well, right?
Yeah. Silver
Yeah.
lining is I became a good listener. Because that's all I could do. Another thing I realized is when, like in that time when I spoke, everything else was so loud. So I was like, I'm sitting in a coffee shop and I was like, why is it so loud? Not realizing it's just like because I've toned down my amount of volume,
Right.
everything else becomes loud.
Right.
So
Yeah, glad that you are able to get back, right? But how was that getting back into the sport?
right.
How what were the first steps that you
Right.
kind of took,
Right.
and how did that go?
So right after I got back, and I just like put in 2 weeks of cycling, and I decided I'll go ride to Nandi with Veloscope guys were training, obviously. So we decided to ride up, and that's the day I don't know what happened. I was pushed back by these guys, Siddharth holding my back for like 30% of the ride. I couldn't climb Nandi, couldn't even go up. Like I had no motivation, no fitness to go up. So I didn't even touch the top. And on the way back, these guys pushed me back. So that day, like I was wearing glasses. Great, I was wearing glasses because I was crying all the way coming back, thinking, what the fuck happened? Like something is off. This is like what have I become kind of situation. That day I went back and I joined. I told, okay, this has to change, and I joined Consult as an athlete. Siddharth Kansal. So he runs a place called the Kansaltant, and very well informed guy. And he took me under his wing, and he said that we're going to change this.
Just a bit about the consultant, right? He was the guy who just came into sport when I started racing back in 2012.
13.
Back in 2012, I think the first race I saw him in was also the first race NJ took part in the Jigni race. Okay, I remember him and this guy Lokesh Sarvesh. Sarvesh Sangaria as well. So these two youngsters. I actually rode the majority of the race with them because we all got dropped. And we were working together to finish the race. And from there to next couple of years, he became very, very strong rider, right? And initially he was also, he comes from a martial arts background and stuff like that. He's a very fit guy, and immediately on the bike he was strong. Okay, but he had to know one of those guys where he in the peloton he could move and him not so much, but I noticed that as well from him. Like initially he was like quite jerky and all that, but then he got really strong and was part of a Trek team around that time, Trek Firefox team, and then he actually went to the UK, right?
To do his masters in sports science.
Masters in sports science, and came back, and that is the kind of background he has in sports science. Physiology, proper science-backed research and stuff. So you joined him.
I joined him. And he took me under his wing. First thing we did was prick my finger some 12-13 times. So he basically wanted to do a blood lactate test. You go through your zones and profile the whole where your fitness lies and all. So I was like, wow, okay, this guy really knows what he's doing. And within 6 to 7 months, I did my PB up Nandi, which was in 23 minutes.
Wow.
So
from not being able to ride the ride, just forget climbing, not able to go there and come back and have someone having to push you while riding, and from the place where you are sorry for yourself and crying because you're not able to do, from there within 8 months you going sub 25, 23 something. Wow.
I mean, I'm grateful to him for like taking all this, like knowing that I'm a PhD student, like how he would even charge me for things was like very, like I'm grateful for someone understanding my point of view and seeing that I'm and helping me out, like for sure. It's all like, and through that period of time I learned a lot of things. Like if you can like sit and discuss, like I would discuss for hours with him, and not even like, because
two geeks geeking out on
it was like amazing because like I learned a lot of, like for example, like initially I'd just look at any research paper and say, okay, so they came to this analysis and and hence you can do this. But then like realizing that no, studies can be wrong. Studies can be done in a wrong way. Not everything that's published out there is correct. So finding how to find the right source and all these things, what is a meta-analysis, and like just like bunch of things I learned from him. So that kind of like helped me a lot.
So what was this, say, I mean, let us dig a little deeper into this period, right? That 8 months of training during that period, 2018, right? Basically. So
2018 to 19,
19 basically, because 2018 beginning was that Nandi race where I saw you.
Beginning, and then
and
8
then
months. But
8 months you were down and out, and maybe at the end of the year
18 Nandi Epic, I didn't take part because I didn't have the fitness.
Right.
And that's probably around the time when we took the call of not taking part in this race, when I was already under consult. But other guys took part, and I was like, shit, I should have gone.
Yeah.
Mm,
But then
yeah.
this period, right, through the end of 2018 to
19
most of
right,
19, right?
right.
So what was your training like? Or,
Right.
typical cycle and stuff.
So my work every day is, I would say, 10 to 12 hours, right? So the idea was to make sure I can recover fast, and make sure if I decide to go hard on days, it would be really hard. Like to the point that, like, I would say 1 month I am not, for the first month VO2 max sessions I am not able to complete. Right, I'm like forget about the last rep, knowing 50% also I'm not getting through. So I was really pushing myself hard on those days, and there was a lot of like easy riding. So just like building mileage through easy riding, and on hard days going super hard. Not just that, then he realized my flexibility was bad. So like working on flexibility, working on strength, uh, having an activation routine to begin with. I never knew. I would just like stretch and go, but not so active stretching is okay, but deep passive stretching is not okay. So just picking up these things and just turning my physiology to something that can take a certain amount of load, recover, and then do it again. That was the focus. So yeah, I mean, I would say
the from the sounds of it, it sounds like a polarized
full
training,
polarized. Yeah,
right?
I mean, because
So I remember that you were putting in a lot of mileage during that period, right? A lot of hours, lot of mileage. You and
yeah,
Abhiram,
right.
I noticed you were riding together a lot, and
Right.
you were putting a lot of mileage. And then when you are doing these hard sessions, you were doing it really hard,
Right.
VO2 and above. So typically, uh, how did a week look like? How many hard sessions, how many, what was it like in terms of volume? How were you kind of periodizing this
Right.
and taking rest and
Right.
stuff?
So because it was just early into my training, right? It wasn't like 6 to 8 months, right? When you just got into it, the basic was like we were doing a 90-10 split. Because 80-20 is too hard.
Yeah.
Even though it's nice on paper, you have to be on a good level of fitness to do 80-20. So 90-10 was the split, and
basically when for people who don't know 80-20 or 90-10, basically we are talking about 80% of, when we are saying 80-20, what which polarized training talks about is uh, doing 80% of your ridings or sessions at a very easy zones, which we call zone 2, and 20% above
zone 4. Yeah,
right?
zone 4
and above, which is basically in our term it will be VO2 and stuff, right? So, and we polarized says you don't do anything in between, no tempo riding, no half-assing,
no sweet spotting,
no sweet spotting.
Yeah.
So that's the principle. You were doing mostly 90-10 kind of.
And let's say with 10-11 hours a week, so that's not much, but it's like I also have to get my PhD sorted, so it was something manageable. So I would say if consistently, like at least for me, consistently that amount of time put in, you can get fit to the point that your FTP is good enough, or whatever, like 20-minute power, 10-minute power, critical power is good enough to do a sub 25 climb. So yeah, that was the agenda. Yeah, that was pretty much.
And that is basically what you did, during that period.
Yeah, till
and
2019.
you talked about strengthening and flexibility. So what kind of routines were you doing to improve that?
So stretching every alternate day before sleeping at night. That was like I'd spend half an hour doing that. That was part of flexibility. So no And then just realizing, like, every once in a while he'd ask me to do a squat in front of him, and then if you're doing such and you see the other person right, so you can see you have muscle imbalances. So just working on and lifting heavy, like I used to lift heavy once a week, uh, all complex motions. Like your deadlift is a complex motion because your bunch of muscles are activated during that. Squats and bench presses, because I didn't lift heavy during bench presses and pull-ups and stuff, because our agenda at that point of time, I hadn't put a goal for myself. I didn't tell myself that, hey, you have to be the fastest rider in India. For me, it was you have to be a complete rider, like just ride so that you can feel a little more like confident and fit on the bike. So we took into account the fact that, okay, you cannot be weak. Like the weakest link will break you. Like, if your back muscles are weak, that will cause an injury in the future. So how do you accommodate all these things? That was the agenda. So yeah, a lot of complex weight exercises once a week at the gym, VO2 session once a week, probably an hour, once or twice depending on how and when I feel, and a lot of LT1 or zone 2 riding. Yeah.
So from during that time, obviously you were pursuing your PhD, right? So and you mentioned it was like 10 to 12 hours a day of kind of
10 to 12 is a good day.
is
Good
yeah,
for me. It can get worse.
yeah, you can get you can be more
Yeah.
than that, right? So and it is something that you have to be present, right?
Yeah.
uh, be there on
Yeah.
point and researching
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that how did you manage the training load and the workload?
I think it all came at a cost,
Hmm.
and the cost is that my social life doesn't like it's there, but like all my friends are they know what I'm doing in life, but I have to give up on a lot of things, uh, which is fine. Like that's my decision to make, and yeah, that's pretty much. If you have 2-3 things to do in life, I think everybody can do it. Uh, yeah, luckily I'm not married or I don't have any other responsibilities. My parents are more independent. So, given all of these things, I think it's manageable.
Hmm.
But one, I would say, important aspect which I, over the course, realized is like I make a journal of things to do in a day, and I like award myself for crossing everything off. And that's pretty much, I think 10-12 hours and then training at my where I am in life. I think it's possible for any. I can't speak for other people,
Right.
but it's hectic. But then what is life? Like
Right,
life is
right.
not a
No, if
easy sail in it
it
for
is, it's
anyone.
also about prioritizing and
Sure,
giving time
for
to
sure.
only those
Yeah,
things that are
yeah,
that matter most for you.
and I feel it's also coming from a place of privilege where I can choose to do certain things and not worry about repercussions that much or have responsibilities. So it's all I am grateful to, like people who know me, my relatives, my family members. They've given me the space and opportunity to be like, huh, I just train and work all day and it's pretty manageable, but that's just yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that's how
Oh,
it is.
you just mentioned about journaling, right?
Yeah, right.
What kind of what is the structure? What are the things that are typically there
So
in it, and
yeah, right. So I wake up in the morning. So the thing is not to have how I operate is not to have too many things floating around in my head. So the moment I get reminded of something to do, I just note it down and then it's out of my mind. And then it's on that notebook and I just have to get it crossed from the notebook. So that's even with my work. Like when I have discussions regarding with my professor or my colleagues, uh, I write everything down so that then it's off my mind. So then I just have to, and that's pretty much like important because when it came to training, around that period of time, when a majority of my work at lab was getting done, I didn't have to come back and think about what to train or how to structure. And that's when having a coach helped, because I was like, okay, plan is given, just have to follow, right? So that's pretty much how that journal also looks. Like if I have to buy potatoes, I won't keep it on my mind. I just write it down, done. Now just get along with the rest of the day. And all of these ideas come when I start my day in the morning, right? So when I'm on the pot, when I'm having a shower, when I'm having my coffee, so that's when I just scribble the notebook, and after that is just, and could be the smallest of things like call home or something,
right.
like that's pretty
Yeah,
much.
just note it down and then tick them
Yeah,
along.
and it's good to like look back through that notebook and see, oh, so you actually did a lot of things in the day, even though they count as small things, but you ended up finishing,
Yeah, that's a very important thing, right? We often are very self-critical of ourselves. I mean, critical of ourselves, and thinking, look back and say, oh, we haven't done much,
You're right.
right? So this also kind of helps even to
You're
look
right.
back and say, okay, you are doing
You're
okay.
right.
So
Yeah,
maybe, and it can also work the other way. You are not doing much. You can do more,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah, so I think
Right. Yeah,
it's
I
a
mean,
good
it's
habit.
like on obviously, like everybody has. I've also had days when I've just been on the screen. So when you just write that check phone all day, that just doesn't sit well for the coming days.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think yeah, that is something that sounds interesting. I'm going to try that.
yeah,
Excellent. So from there, so through 2019 until you kind of did 23 hour, 23 hours,
I wish.
23 minute Nandi,
Right.
right? So from there, how did it
Right.
go?
So after doing that, right,
Hmm.
that I think at the base I met Dipankar.
Hmm.
And Dipankar told me, hey, you have potential. And I think Vivek Radhakrishnan also told me once that, that there is some potential. So I didn't realize any of this. It's only other people telling me. Uh, and around this time, I was able to ride with Leander, Ben, and these guys were fast. Okay, like for me, it was like if I can ride with them and hold, it's good. Like Saturday rides, I was reaching it till the top. Like it's with everyone. So that's when I thought, okay, so I haven't gotten really serious about it yet. Let's see what happens if I do. And that's 2019 end to 2020. And for me, the marker was like, that's when I got a power meter and this and that. And you know how like power talks start, right? Like once you get a power meter, it's, oh, this number, that number, who, someone else's number, what. I was like, leave all of that. Every year I should attempt to beat my previous timing on Nandi. Forget about any other number. Like if I can be, because I was using a bad power meter. So my numbers were a little higher than expected, and which I realized later. But for me,
Which was?
I was using a Stages second gen,
Hmm.
and the capacity at which fitness that I am right now, I was there at 2019 according to
Okay.
those numbers, which wasn't true. Uh,
So
but
I mean, basically that is a single-sided power meter,
right.
which
I was kind of broken, I think. Something calibration issues were there, even though
okay.
I calibrated and
Also, I mean, from single-sided can be the issues also
that is another physiology.
imbalances, right?
Yeah, correct. I realized it once I got a dual-sided that my left leg had gotten stronger over time, because in my head I'm like, power meters, press more, and then yeah.
Right. So that is also there. It might not be giving the entire picture,
Sure.
basically.
But in my head, I was like, I have to climb Nandi faster every year, and around the same time of the year. So every September to October, November is when, before Nandi Epic, I attempt once to see how good I can do now.
So during that period where you got the power meter and you were, you decided that you want to get serious.
Right.
What kind of riding and training did you do?
Right. So I think the structure was mostly similar, but now TTs started coming into picture, because I'm like, hey, can I take part in nationals? If I have to take part in national, what's required? And then the training shifted towards longer duration, not just VO2 stuff, but a little more FTP oriented stuff. And that's around the time 2019 end to 2020, before the pandemic, is when I started doing some ITTs. And for me, like, I was always a lighter, like shorter guy. So for me, crossing that 40 kmph mark on the TT bike, I was like, hey, so I can do this also. Uh, and hence, like, I asked Kansal, like, how realistic do you think this is? Like, can I actually go represent anywhere and all? And he's always been very optimistic. He's like, the level at which India races right now is something anybody can achieve. You just have to be consistent, and
Something
which is
NJ
probably
also
true.
says.
Yeah, which is like completely true, right? Uh, and for nationals, like, I think you don't need to be that fit. Like, you can be at the zone. Yeah, you can be 2 zones apart from the strongest rider in India and still be at nationals, right? So I was like, cool, so let's do this. And then training was mostly about getting faster on a 20 to 40 minute effort, or a little longer,
Right.
40, 50.
So did the structure more or less the training philosophy?
Yeah, philosophy stayed the
stayed
same.
the same. Yeah.
But the structure moved because I was very. So Kansal asked me two things. One was how, when do you want to see results? Because there are two ways of going about it. One is a longer but a more correct way of doing it, and one is shorter, and you can only have gains for that. I was like, okay, let's do the shorter route because I want to have gains in 2020 whenever we do this, right? And then the pandemic happened. So, well, all of that. I did have the fitness. I think I had, from 23 minutes, I had come down to 21. So
21.
yeah, so cutting 2 minutes, I was like, and I was doing on my Scott, the Scott Solis bike, right?
Right.
So it's an endurance geometry. I put on clip-on bars, and I was able to do 43, 44 Ks an hour. So I was like, okay, cool, this is possible. I can do this. So we took the shorter method, and I knew I was going to only be able to hold the fitness for a couple of months after that, and we had timed it accordingly.
So what was the difference in structure for the shorter version versus the longer method?
So the longer method requires you to do more stuff at LT1, and the volume is a lot. So whereas the shorter method required a lot of indoor things and a lot of, like, ride hard, ride short, but do it multiple times. The longer method, basically, so how I understand this is, you can either increase the mitochondrial density, or you can change the efficiency of your existing mitochondria. So we were working on this, like, high intensity, high intensity, high intensity, as much as you can pack. And the longer method obviously takes a year, 2 years for you to start developing.
Right. So when you are talking about increasing the mitochondrial density, you are basically, working so that more mitochondria develop
in number.
More.
Yeah.
So increase in your body.
Yeah.
So it is a longer process, right?
yeah.
The more it needs more volume at lower intensity for you to recover and while building. Right?
Which is a more, like, that kind of fitness you can hold. Like, now I would say, given the same power meter and, like, whatever, like, if I had to give out a number, my zone 2 wattage and heart rate for that wattage doesn't drop, because that's a fitness I've achieved. Now if today I have to do like a 200 watt ride for 3-4 hours, 2-3 hours, I can do it, like, because that's something I can sustain, and that my top end will keep fluctuating based on what kind of work I give it. But the work that I've put into that base, that it's hard to move. I can be 2 weeks off the bike and come back and still do that low aerobic work.
Correct.
And that's the right way, because in a way
it's more sustainable.
Yeah.
Excellent. And you also talked about one thing that struck me was that not falling into the rut of comparing with others and
Right.
comparing the numbers and
Yeah.
whose number is bigger and all that,
Yeah.
because it can go downhill very soon, right?
Yeah. I mean, so I do a lot of numbers,
Hmm.
but then I do it to myself.
With respect to yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
So that'll be in my world,
Hmm.
and that's just because like I'm trained that way. My
Hmm.
brain's trained to look at graphs, to
Hmm.
look at numbers, to see correlations, and that's how I understand the world. Uh, so that's but comparing with others is just a little like I feel like there are too many variables, and
Correct.
it's just
Yeah.
no point.
Yeah.
Like especially when who are you comparing with? Like
Hmm.
you can compare yourself with like I don't know Jonas Vingegaard or Pogacar. Then what's the point?
And feel like shit.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
like just have an eye-opening experience.
Correct. So, but how did the pandemic years, the last 2 years,
Hmm.
uh, go for you in terms of training?
Hmm.
Because especially in 2020 and most of 2021, we didn't have many events and stuff.
Yes.
How did you manage to stay fit? Or did you manage to stay fit? If so, how? What was the motivation and stuff?
So in 2020, March is when the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
At that point in time, all educational institutes were asked to shut down. But because of how, like especially labs function, some students were asked to stay back, and I chose to stay back, which I don't know why I didn't, but somebody had to stay here and make sure the computers are running and everything's functional because people were working remotely. So during the pandemic, when everybody else went home, there were like 5 people in a 300 people hostel, and all 5 of us we just like eat together. I started cooking on my own for the first time because before this is just mess food, you just like everything's. So I started eating better. I started losing a lot of weight. Like I was 63, and by the end of the pandemic, I was 57. That's the lightest I've been. And 57, I was like, wow, I'm waiting to climb Nandi now, let it open. Training wise, a lot of it moved indoors, uh, but it was good. Like I liked indoor training because I was able to, I was able to do 4 hour. Back then, early pandemic time, I think people were doing 6 hour rides indoor, and it was just like a whole virtual world opening where.
On Zwift and stuff,
And
yeah.
stuff, right?
We were
Yeah.
doing those, yeah.
So I had like a bunch of some 3-4 email IDs, and I just kept getting free this thing.
Zwift
Zwift
subscriptions,
subscription,
yeah.
right? So yeah, and that's around the time when by this time like Ben and I were riding a lot, right? And we were like, hey, so race is not happening, what to do? And that's when we got together and thought of starting. Like he had an idea of starting something, the monthly course, right? So it was called the monthly crit before, and then we changed it to monthly course. So that's when we said, okay, so no race is happening. What can we do? How can we get the race thing back? This is around the time where pro riders, especially from Ineos, had started racing each other on Zwift, and we got this idea about how we could start doing this here, right? So uh, through the pandemic, I think virtual races is what kept me fit. I was just looking forward to not just organizing, but also doing something new with it, and looking forward to being fit for something.
Right.
So that is how the pandemic went, and that was good because there was some event to look forward to, and you could stay fit.
Right.
So.
Excellent. So, and then you, when was the move to LBB happened, and how did
Oh,
that?
right. So before the pandemic, I had left. I would say 2019 end. I left Veloscope, which was actually we were just like losing a lot of riders. Lot of there was, I don't know if you remember Gautam David. He used to ride, and bunch of other younger riders, and it was just Abhiram and me, and yeah, it was a very independent decision. I decided to make myself open to more experiences, and hence I decided to leave. So after I left, I was not racing with anyone for 6-7 months, uh, and I hadn't joined LBB. Actually, like this is no, like very few people know this, but I think it's fine to say it now. I was very dead against joining LBB because in my head those were the guys to beat. You know, like if you end up, because I've had like very frustrating moments with LBB riders not, like one person's in the break and then right, like what other people feel now is what I was feeling then. That these guys, man, like they come in big numbers and then like everybody is good and fit, and then how do you beat them, right? So, uh, but I think after TMC happened and it's just like all of us became really good friends, and Joel and I we were riding together, not part of LBB, and then it's just like we just decided that. So Joel said, "I'll move wherever you're going," right? So because we were riding together, so then we was like, "Okay, cool, let's do LBB, but we'll have a tight racing squad." It was also a lull period for LBB that time because coming out of pandemic, nobody knows, like no racing happening.
Correct.
Everybody was in a different space, so we decided let's do LBB, but let's do this like a like let's do something new with
it's
it.
also,
So,
even around that time, from an outsider perspective, I see that a lot of riders were falling off that wagon as well.
yeah,
Right. LBB squad also was kind of disintegrating around that time.
So because see, there was the pandemic
Because it's
actually
all,
changed everything.
at the end of the day, it's a team is what a bunch of people who are
Right.
like, with similar interests, and but that team can kind of wander off uh, with life.
Yeah, correct.
Life taking
For
you
sure.
to different
Yeah,
aspects.
I mean everybody
right?
has a working job.
Correct.
And
Yeah, and Lee was moving to Ooty and a bunch of things, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed that it was kind of slowly disintegrating,
Right.
and then you both joining and kind of reshaped that
Right.
unit.
Yeah, both of
as
us
I know
and,
it.
and Nandini.
Nandini,
Those are the three
yeah.
people who joined again.
Correct.
So that was I mean everybody who was there like wanted thing to stay together. We just needed adhesive.
Right.
So we acted as adhesive and just like put everything in place, and then it's like it's the existing structure is very well functioning. Now I've been a part of 2 teams, so I've seen like how people respond, like so this being an LBB was definitely a little more responsive and a creative atmosphere, and we were already doing projects which was outside of LBB but same people. So yeah, I mean it's just happened, like it was just
no, that I mean, it is great to see. At that time, there could have been 2 outcomes, right? Either you start a new team with basically both of you and a bunch of others, or join existing team and revive it, or reshape it, which is what happened eventually. But once you guys became part of it, I've seen from an outsider perspective, who kind of keeps an eye on things just from curiosity perspective, is that it has seen a revival like never before, right? I've seen racing teams from 2011-12 onwards, our local racing teams, including Trek Firefox, Specialized Kinkini, and all these. At least in the may not be in the organizational perspective, like might not compare with the Specialized Kinkini in that aspect, like, but the level is almost there. Right.
Yeah, I would say that too, because when we joined, we weren't the strongest riders. And I like to surround myself with people who are much better than me, because then there's room for improvement, right? And you can screw up more because you're not the best guy. So when we joined, we made it a point that, you know, we have to learn as much as possible. Everybody should like develop at a level that we've not done before, and let's just take this a little more like seriously. And it's good to see that like you notice that, and I mean, it's just the beginning, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
we're also recruiting. So whoever wants to join.
Recruiting old guys.
Dude, age. Like I would say our like most accomplished riders are the oldest people.
Yeah. No, but it is great to see now, because it's a team sport at the end of the day, right? You ride together,
Right.
just race together.
Right.
You have to
Now we
cycling for
analyze
me.
together.
Yeah. Talk.
Right.
Numbers and everything
Right.
together. It is a team sport,
Right.
and you can ride alone, but it is not same as
Yeah.
riding together, right? And racing together.
Right.
Definitely. And more teams need to come up.
Yeah.
It
for
need
sure.
not be someone looking for joining
Right.
LBB or joining Team Bros or
Right.
Spectrum or something like that. But you can, if you have a bunch of guys, you can start a team.
Yeah.
It is not
definitely.
rocket science.
Yeah.
Now Ankush and guys call themselves
Right.
old goats
Right.
racing.
Yeah.
That's great to see,
Yeah.
right? More and more units have to
Yeah.
come together, but because once there is a team,
Right.
it gives you a whole different
Sure,
purpose and
definitely.
perspective,
Yeah.
right? So that motivates you in a different level
Right.
to push yourself
Yeah.
together further.
That's true.
So and you have done a bunch of races, right, over the years. From your first race to now, what are the kind of changes you see in the community?
Right. Well, I'll give you a statistic. This year, this year alone, I've done more races than I've done in my entire until before this year. Right. So my first race was I would say a very underconfident race. And now I race pretty confidently, to the point that like I don't panic much. Initially, I used to panic a lot. Oh, what if I get dropped? Oh, one signal is coming. Oh, everybody's accelerating. So I think that takes a little bit of time, understanding that it's fine. Like things don't move at a time scale that we think they move at. Every you can respond like in. So I think just my mentality going into a race, things are very standardized now. I know what to eat. I don't have to. So it's just like I think experience, which I don't have a lot of, but given the context, I think I think there is in Bangalore this year I wouldn't have missed any race, and we did races outside of Bangalore also. So whatever the opportunity there was, we've made the most use of it. So yeah, racing, I would say just the patience has increased, confidence has increased. I don't care too much about race results now. Also because that comes because you have a teammate who's always like better than you, right? So you can always land up in second place. Like 6 out of 8 results this year for me has been second place. But like that doesn't, by the end of the day.
But you work towards result for your team.
Yeah. I mean, I would say in any kind of race, like a flat road race, a time trial, or a climbing race, I'm happy to be a domestic, not in time trials, but like if it's a team time trial, because I function in a way where I can do my best when I know someone's dependent on me. So that makes me work past my limit. I can't let them down rather than, working for myself.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I identify very much with that philosophy.
Yeah, we've seen you so many times pulling the entire peloton for kilometers and kilometers.
Yeah, I do my best when I am doing that,
Yeah.
rather than racing for myself.
Right.
So that I understand what you're talking about there.
Right.
But what I have noticed with you from the first time I have seen you
to now, you might have gained experience over the years racing, and your fitness level is way more now compared to then.
Right.
But one thing that I love seeing from you is that willingness to put yourself through pain and
Yeah.
attacking or
Yeah.
going off,
Right.
risking that fear
Right.
is
Yeah.
fear of big guys or stuff
Yeah.
like that is not there, is was my
Right.
perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also because, see, once you forget about the results
Hmm.
or like finishing or not finishing, then you are like, okay, I'm here to have fun. Let us change the way it's raced. So like how when I first got into the elite peloton in Bangalore elite racing, uh, I would notice that things only start animating after the U-turn or after 50% of the race is done. That's when moves are made. So when I got to a point where we could decide like how things would, I was like, why wait? Cycling as a sport is changing globally. This year's tour, if you see the yellow jersey attacking, you see, like the yellow jersey no break, and then the white jersey attacking, and like, so cycling has changed so much, especially like with that people are not afraid, I feel, to take that one extra step. That okay, what do I have to lose? I have to make that one commitment, right? So that's pretty much what, when I go in like, yeah, man, it's fine. Like, what happens if I get caught? I get caught, no issues. I'll try whatever I can, but let's animate, let's catch people by surprise. Uh, Even for the BBCH race, we knew Rick is going to race. So Rick is a pro Conti rider, like, so he has seen much more racing and at a level that we haven't seen. My idea, and like we discussed this with Joel and other teammates also, was to make a ride hard for him so that he sees Bangalore racing or like racing in South India and feels like, this is some active racing. Like, I don't have to make the move. I don't have, people are not waiting for me to make a move. And that's pretty much how, like, even if I ever go for nationals, or like, I'm pretty much going to play it like that, where I'm not going to wait for anyone to make a move, right? Why? Like, I don't, even if I don't finish, it's fine. But just taking that leap of faith and just going with it, just for the fun of it. Once you're a little fit, it gets a little scary for other people. So, so it's nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you got like we talk about burning matches in a race, right? Especially in that Nandi race, I saw. Yeah, given that it is a shorter race,
Right.
still that I think I counted about 20 times that you attacked.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, burning matches. It was like, see, every time I attacked, I have weaknesses, right? So my weakness is I can't sustain that power for too long. So the gap will be there, and then it will be there. Like if you see Srinath or Joel attack, they keep increasing the gap. I can just sustain the gap, get brought back. So my job is not to win, probably to make sure the other people do,
Are working.
yeah, working, right?
Yeah.
And I paid for this. I paid for doing all of this in the last race when we went for the classic 160K.
160, yeah.
I DNF'd. I had a really bad day, even though I started well. We made a great move. Joel and I were part of a break which had 60 seconds to 80 seconds, and just the two of us, and everybody else was in the back. And we could have ridden it, but for whatever reason, I just played it very, very confidently, and I paid the price, but also a learning.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, only when you take that risk and try it and maybe fail,
Right.
you will know the limits, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
Now I know how many bottles I should carry, how much water I should drink, because doing a 100 to 200 kilometer ride in a non-race situation, your consumption is rate is much lower.
Oh,
Right.
tell
So
me about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for like that classic race, for the first hour, I have like already burnt like what I had consumed, or like the rate doesn't work the same way because I'm much above my threshold then. But yeah, learning for sure. Mm.
So were you under fueling during
I
that
was
race?
dehydrated.
Hmm.
So very like if you want to talk about that race,
Yeah. Let's do that.
so the strategy was Rick is there. The idea is to get to a situation where there's Rick versus a lot of LBB guys. So at this point of time, we aren't considering any other riders in the situation. We are like, Rick is the strongest guy. He's already raced. He's raced against NJ. So as a team, it would be a great way of showing what teams can do by upping him with a strategy, right? So the best situation for us was have satellite riders up ahead on the road. When Rick makes the move, probably he won't catch the satellite riders because he doesn't know them, and have Rick make the move, and obviously Srinath can follow him. Like that shouldn't be a problem for him. Once we get into a 3-on-1, 4-on-1 situation, then start burning him up, right? Like that's where you start and this is exactly when that stage 11 of Tour de France
Exactly.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, like if obviously they have much higher level of fitness, but if they can dare to do it, we can also try. Why
Yeah,
not?
they did it for 65 kilometers
Just
to
to
go
and climb
and climb, right? On the
Exactly.
penultimate climb
Yeah,
they did,
right.
right?
So that was the strategy, and the first part of the strategy went out really well. But going into the first part, both Joel and I were carrying only one bottle each because our attacks were in a tailwind section on climbs. So I know I can do higher wattages, watts per kilo on climbs and create that gap, but I have to do it 2-3 times so that I can drop people, right? So we were both carrying one bottle, and the idea was to refuel at the U-turn when we get the time check, and that was a bad strategy. So our support only got to us after 60 kilometers.
Ooh.
And by that time we had lost water. There was nothing. Joel had some left, I didn't even have that much, so I had to drop back. And my idea was, okay, drop back, get to the back of the peloton, get some water, and make it to the next move, which will catch Joel, right? And which did happen. The Srinath and Rick and a couple of other riders joined Joel in the but our support car wasn't there, and it was such a hard task for them because they had to support the women's race and the elite race, which is broken into 2-3 parts.
Correct.
So where do you go?
They start at different times.
Yeah, and so the women's race start at 7:30. By 7:30 we've already reached the U-turn. Right. So, and the thing is, if their usefulness by supporting the women's race was very clear, because Priya had a brake rub in the first 20 kilometers or something. If they weren't there, her race would have gotten screwed. If they were there with us, then her, if it's a trade-off. So really hard job for them, and we only had one car. So yeah, whatever, bad strategy from my end. I realized that you can, carry 1.5 kilos more on you, but sometimes it's better to either have a two-wheeler who can quickly go up and down or stay with you guys.
Right.
I think support is much easier on two-wheelers, even for the traffic situation
Correct,
in the back.
correct.
Probably I think every team can just have one car with wheels that can always ride in the back, and have a two-wheeler to come give you bottles. I think then it's
So that's
there's things to learn.
These are
for sure.
learnings definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, I blew myself up, and that's pretty much it.
No, but these are all things that we learn as we go along, right? That is important. Excellent. Yeah. What else?
What else? Yeah. So I'm finishing my PhD. That's done. I could have finished it earlier, but I just want to balance out things now. So this year I'm not doing anything new. This year I also want to go for nationals. So I have my TT bike set up, I have my road bike set up, everything's fine.
TT
Himachal,
bike, is that the Canyon?
no, it's the Boardman.
Oh, you converted the Boardman into
Boardman,
the
yeah,
TT.
it's got a much cleaner front end because the brakes are hidden.
Uh-huh.
Let's see, we're fine tuning the position on the bike. So
Is the front end adjustable on this that much?
yeah, I mean for my position on the bike, because I have the profile design
Bars.
cockpit, yeah. So the cockpit's quite adjustable.
That's important.
Yeah. So this year nationals, let's see how that goes.
Right.
Himachal doesn't have a lot of road riders, so should be nice to put them have like representation from Himachal also.
Yeah.
That's the plan. And yeah, other than that, just making sure the local scene here keeps growing. We have a YouTube channel for analyzing videos now, which
FTP.
yeah, FTP.
Yeah, from the Peloton.
From the
You in that you and Joel,
Yeah, right.
your teammate partner, and started a YouTube channel analyzing the race results. For anyone listening, you should definitely check out the race analysis videos there.
And tell us what you want to see.
Yeah,
I mean, probably.
you can comment on the videos and let them know what you would like to see. It's really well done videos, well edited, well analyzed and commented upon. So you should really subscribe to the channel. I'll put the link to that in the show notes so that you can subscribe.
Yeah, perfect.
Excellent. So all the best for your goals this year and in the future.
Yeah, future I still have to think what to do. Like now I have to do like some work in the athlete now. So the working part has to so I'm still at crossroads deciding between industry and academia. But I won't want to take that decision only end of the year. So yeah, until then it's pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah, and end of the year after nationals and stuff. Yeah, cool. I am sure you will make the right decision and in whatever place, right?
Yeah,
I am sure you would
really
excel.
hope if I can get to work with like a bicycle manufacturer. Oh, great!
Yeah.
I can do aerodynamics for them, develop bicycles. That'd be a dream job.
Yeah.
But yeah, for all you know, there might be an Indian manufacturer which could be making aero bikes. For all you know.
Oh, let's hope so.
Yeah, we could be the next WinSpace.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Anyway.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
It's a blast.
Yeah.
It was really fun talking to you and getting to know your journey in the endurance sports. And I wish you all the best. Before we wind up, a few tips to the people, aspiring athletes and working athletes.
Right. Few tips. Right. Yeah, just have fun, guys. Like it's not like be consistent, have fun at what you're doing, and if you do that, you wouldn't feel like it's a task. And yeah, don't worry about race results is what I want to say. It's fine. Like doesn't matter. Grand scheme of things, all of this is. I'm also getting some white hair in my beard, so all my wisdom teeth are intact. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like just I don't know. Have fun, yeah, and don't be scared. Don't feel underconfident to do crazy things. Not crashing into someone, but like things that are not traditionally done when it comes to racing or
don't be afraid to fail, basically, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks you.
Thanks,
awesome.
Venky. Bye.
That was my conversation with Shaurya. I hope you enjoyed that. If you are enjoying this podcast and are finding them useful, please consider subscribing to the channel and supporting the podcast. You can subscribe to the channel on YouTube as well as on your favorite podcasting app. It really helps. Thanks again for your continuous support. See you next week with another guest.